This is Lamar, and you're listening to Getting to Third Space with Lamar and Tom. A third space is a term that refers to a safe space for people to come together for respectful dialogue in a spirit of listening, sharing, and learning. In this podcast, we explore what it means to have third space conversations, and we try to model them. If you like what you hear in this podcast, please be sure to subscribe, share it, and of course, like it. The more people join us, the quicker we get to third space as a society. Now let's get to third space today.
Hey, Lamar, how's it going today?
Hey, Tom, it's going well. How is it going in Maryland?
I'm so excited.
You are.
I am just so excited because yesterday we got an email telling us that the Frederick Flying Cows season tickets and seats have gone on sale.
All right. Did you get yours right away?
Not yet.
Oh.
Not yet. So here's the thing. We don't buy the season ticket.
Oh. Okay.
Because if we go to the door, we get senior discount.
Oh, the tricks of being a senior.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. The tricks to being an old coot, right?
I thought maybe you were buying from scalpers or something.
Oh, no. We don't have to do that. I mean, the discount is pretty good for seniors. So we just go to the door and buy them at the door and go in because we do general admission. Hey, it's at a gymnasium. They play at a gymnasium of a local college. So It's not like there's box seats and stuff like that. And at one time we did, just for fun, we bought courtside seats. And once we got there and saw where our seats were, we go, this looks dangerous. So
a lot of activity around the courtside.
Well, sure enough, I mean, once or twice or three times a game, a player goes flying into those chairs, it's like, okay, no, we're not going to do that. We'd be sitting here waiting for a player to land on our lap, and that would be kind of stressful. So we decided we would, how like in the old, in the gymnasiums where they have the pull out.
The old
seats,
bleachers.
Right?
Yeah.
Bleachers, right. Well, of course, we like to go all the way to the top, so we got a great panoramic view of the.
Well, the seats are better up higher because you can see more of the game.
That's right. Right. We can. It's so we're excited. First game's not for a few weeks yet, but the tickets went on sale, so we know the season is getting close. It's getting close.
Cool.
So what about you? What's happening with you?
First of all, I'm not a big fan of winter, but it's okay. I mean, I'll deal with it, right? But I'm not a big fan of it. And primarily because it gets in the way of all the other things I want to do that's fun. So I do miss my travel. I do miss my camping. And so we're pretty excited about, getting on the road again here this spring. We got some plans we're putting into place. But what I'm doing right now, I have my family. There's 5 of us boys. Mm-hmm. And my father, who is a farmer, most of his life was also a carpenter for a lot of years.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and so he had a lot of tools. And I run across a photo, and interestingly, one of my brothers run across the same photo too in a I think it was in a restaurant or somewhere on the wall, and he showed me this photo. He said, I almost bought this, but the guy wouldn't sell it. And I looked at it. I said, I've seen that photo. I said, it was a photo of tools on a workbench. And I said, I would love to recreate that photo in my studio. I said, but I need some of Dad's tools. Mm-hmm. And so I've been collecting tools from my brothers and my nephews to put together this photo.
Oh, nice.
And so I've been working on that. Yesterday, I worked on it to begin starting the process. It's not as easy as just putting a bunch of tools on a bench and taking a picture. So, yesterday I was working primarily with lighting, and ruled out some things. So I'm continuing down that path. But I'm pretty excited about this photo that I'm going to do. Make it obviously for my family, and then I'll probably, if it's gallery worthy, get it up in a gallery. So, but I've been able to get myself out of this winter frump that I'm in.
Oh, good. So in arranging the tools,
Mhm.
I'm going to take a guess here that
Okay.
part of what maybe you were going for was arranging them in such a way so perhaps it suggests that a workman had just walked away from the bench.
Right. That you
Ah,
walk into their workman shop and they're laying there, not organized and put away,
yeah,
but on the bench,
ready to go.
ready to go. Uh, curls of wood that were planed and nails and all that kind of thing. And when you try to arrange something so that it looks like it's not arranged,
It looks arranged, right?
it looks arranged. And
Yeah.
so, but I've been working right now on just the lighting, getting the lighting correct, and I'll spend more time on the arrangements. So
Very, very nice.
so pretty excited about it.
The age of digital photography, it is so nice because it allows you to play with the effects, take a picture instantaneously and see what
Yeah.
it looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you would have gone through lots of rolls of film.
Which is why back in the day I did my own developing and I took a lot of black and white, right?
Great. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
But no, you're
Oh.
right. Now, the other side of digital photography is the whole AI side, which we've talked about ad nauseum on this channel.
Ugh.
Maybe not ad nauseum, but enough to know a little bit about it, and realizing that, well, folks, what you see may not be real,
It may not be real.
which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today, right?
Oh, we are. Speaking of photography. So, yeah. So, we are recording this on January 15th, and we recorded our last podcast on January 8th.
Right.
And so the podcast we're doing today, originally we were going to record last week, but instead we found ourselves just kind of in the aftermath of the
Right.
shooting of Renee Nicole Good, talking about gaslighting.
Right.
And how gaslighting was happening, political gaslighting, about gaslighting being this idea of putting things out there that are that you're trying to convince people are true, but they're not true, but it really has this effect on you of like, well, wait a minute, I saw this on TV, and now you're telling me that's not what I saw, and it's kind of a crazy making experience. Well,
and you throw into the mix now technology that is more than just what people are trying to tell you what you should believe, but to show you things that appear to be factual in a photograph that are not.
Yeah, that's right. And so we didn't quite get around a week ago, when we originally were hoping to record this podcast to talk about what we were going to talk about, which was the publication known as Snopes.
Yeah.
And but today we will, and we're actually going to start with a photograph that Snopes has debunked. But first, we probably ought to, tell people a little bit more about Snopes. It was started in, I didn't realize this, Lamar. It was started in 1994.
Really?
And it started out by investigating urban legends, hoaxes, and folklore.
I remember this.
Yes. And so, but when things began to move online, there became more of a demand for really reliable fact checking, and Snopes as a result grew as well. So at this point in time, it's now according to its website, it's now the oldest and largest fact checking site, and it is very highly respected by journalists, folklorists, and just readers as a place where they can go to get really accurate information about things that they're hearing about. It's an independent publication that's it's owned and operated under what's called Snopes Incorporated. So we kind of discovered them when we were wanting to make sure that things we were saying were based in fact.
Right.
Right. And so it became one of those sites that we go to. I think we've since both subscribed to it, so we get these daily things from them.
And it may be helpful to know a little bit about subscription to Snope. And it's Snopes, SNOPES.com.
Right.
And there are other fact-finding places too, which I think we're going to list some of those in our show notes so people could check some of those out.
Right.
But Snopes suggests a membership. So you'll get 6 free investigations, meaning reading stories that they produce. And then they're going to ask you if you would be willing to donate for a membership, something you can afford. If you can't, you can bypass that. But it's such a good service. That is something that, I want to be able to pay for, given it's provided so much for us.
Yeah, it really has. In fact, I did, when I was on today, of course, it says, so, what do you think? Do you want a membership? And I hit, ask me later, but okay. I do plan, because I went on and I looked and that's a really lovely feature that you can give what you can afford.
Right.
And so I think that's really nice. And I appreciate them doing that. And they really provide a terrific service. And, so I'm likely to take out a membership as well. But anyway, so
let's connect that to our conversation from last session, because that's a really important connection with the Renee Nicole Good's shooting.
Right.
We saw the video last time, and we were saying, beware. We're going to hear a lot of things. We're hoping for a good investigation to clearly say what happened here and what kind of accountability is there for someone to be shot so terribly. I mean, she was shot in the face and she was killed fairly, not instantly, but fairly quickly. And in what appears to us to be, from the video, it could have been something avoided.
Yeah.
That's just my interpretation.
Right. And of course, we were just so optimistic in our last assessment. We said, wow, the Minnesota Bureau of Investigation is working on that. The FBI is working on that. Mm-hmm. And we no more than finished that podcast. And the very next day, we find out that the Minnesota State Police, the Minnesota Bureau of Investigation, they were told it's not your jurisdiction. And then they were said, and there's nothing here to investigate by the Department of Justice. And then the Department of Justice decided they would investigate Renee Nicole Good's spouse. Becca, I think her name is, if I remember right. And so everything wow, did it go off the rails? I mean, it really went off the rails.
It did. And, our hopes were dashed in that there would be in any law enforcement shooting, whether it appears justified or not, the protocol is that there is an investigation. Typically, the law enforcement officer is put on administrative leave, and there's a proper investigation. There's an outcome to that. The public is made aware. As we've talked about on this podcast, when in my case, where I was, part of the workplace shooting, and it's very obvious, who shot the bad guy in my case. That police officer was put on administrative leave for a long time.
Yeah.
While Kansas Bureau of Investigation did an investigation and put all the facts out there, and eventually, he was exonerated, and there were no charges, but the investigation had to take place. It had to be clear what happened.
Yeah.
In this case, that doesn't seem to be happening at all.
No. In fact, it could be argued that just the opposite is happening. I mean, since in the 8 days since that shooting, let's see, there has been another surge of federal officers to Minnesota, which, after what happened, a surge is, it would not have occurred to me to surge more officers into Minnesota if I were a rational person. I don't think. The Minnesota Bureau of Investigation, the state police. The state has been kicked out of the investigation. There's been talk of investigating her partner or her spouse. Let's see. Oh, and there has been, just last night, there was another shooting by a federal officer, shot a Venezuelan man in the leg.
Well, I tell you what, Tom, let's talk about what Snopes has provided for us.
Yes.
On this account, because one of the critical comments, critical observations, has to do with whether or not the officer who fired the shots was in danger of his life, and was the vehicle weaponized to hurt him, causing bodily harm.
That's right, and of course that's the story that's being put out there by none other than the vice president, by Homeland Security, by the Department of Justice, that she had weaponized her vehicle, and was going to run over the ICE agent.
Right. Now, if you've not heard this, I don't know where you've been. Because this has been all over.
Yeah.
But Snopes has investigated the video and some other photos that have come out since then.
Yeah. And so, and actually we're going to, I think we can do this because this was public, right?
Okay.
I mean, we're going
Make
to
sure
put,
we can show this. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to put this up on our video. If you listen to this, we'll describe it. But so if you listen by audio, you'll have to put up with our kind of strange description of it. And if you go to our YouTube site, though, you can also take a look at this and you can see the photo we're talking about, or just go to Snopes.com.
Yeah.
And
the
look
at ICE officer isn't what it seems.
Yes. Right. Yeah. There's a if you do a search for that photo, or even just search Renee Nicole Good, a whole list of things will come up related to her shooting, and one of them has to do with the photos. So, you want to describe the photo? Or
I'll do that.
Okay, go for it.
And again, this is published on January 9. So there's two side-by-side photos. And one photo will have an emblem with a camera. It's red with a line through it, and the other photo will have a green check mark. The green check mark meaning this is a credible photo, and the red one with a camera through it meaning this image has been altered. And so a credible photo is more of a photo from the rear, one that we saw on the video of an ICE agent trying to open a door. A woman, which we believe is probably the spouse to the right of the car, making comments to the ICE officers. And then somewhere towards the front of the car is the officer who did the fatal shooting. And that has received a green check as saying this photo has not been altered. The one to the left is an overhead photo of a vehicle, supposed to be her vehicle, with a police officer standing, or an ICE officer standing directly in front of the driver's side rear fender, with the wheels straight, the front wheels straight, not turning like they are in the checked photo, and also a gunman, ICE gunman on the right of the vehicle with his gun raised, which is something I hadn't seen before. And as they have looked at that photo, they are saying that photo has been altered, and the image, they have traced it back. The image itself that has been altered came from a user, courtesy of ex-user at Scummy Mummy 511/Max, etc., and who has said, "Hey, this image was put together using artificial intelligence, so it is not a credible photo."
So now, but why wouldn't you trust somebody named Scummy Mummy? I mean, come on.
Yeah, great. I'm not sure that has been highlighted when this photo was presented. Typically,
no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So basically, they're showing the two photos. One has been generated by AI, and that proves, and that fake photo, let's call it a fake photo because it is.
Okay. And they're saying it's a fake photo.
Yeah. That fake photo has been used or is being used to prove the narrative that's being put out by the administration and in defense of the ICE agents' actions.
Right.
But the actual photo is the one on the right, and it shows her having turned those wheels to move away from the officers.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. So why does this matter, Lamar?
Last time when we talked about gaslighting,
Yes.
And we talked about political gaslighting. This falls very squarely into political gaslighting, and that is basically to try to psychologically impact a large population to believe something that is not true, that is not based in fact, and also to control the narrative, the story, saying, this is the story. And this photo that was faked by AI would be good evidence to say, hey, what that officer was in danger.
Yeah.
And so that justifies the shooting, et cetera, et cetera. But if you create a photo like that, that's evidence.
Yeah.
Well, it's a fake photo. And so, but most of us are going to look at that initially and say, oh my gosh, yeah. So that reinforces the psychological manipulation that's being done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reinforces gaslighting.
Yeah. And so we as we were getting ready for this podcast today, this article had appeared, and we go, oh, this is just the perfect one to start with, because it kind of ties us back to what we talked about before in the gaslighting. And it allows us then also to get into that conversation that we were hoping to have last week
Right.
about Snopes. So
You mean there's more?
there's more. Yeah, Snopes has some really interesting stuff. So we're gonna highlight a couple others and talk about why. And actually, I was just sitting here as you were describing that, Lamar, and talking about why that matters. I thought, we should every now and then loop back to Snopes and just pick up a couple of stories, because some of them are just so darn funny.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's right.
But these days, many of them, people are writing into Snopes saying, "I heard this. Is this true?"
Right.
And they're chasing down a lot of rumors, and they do a nice job of investigating, and they also give you all the links that they use,
Right.
and all the sources they use to verify. So, but the next one involves our Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
Right, and you'll remember that not long ago he came out with an announcement that they were going to, let's see, he said that they repealed a rule for 24/7 nurses in nursing homes.
Registered nurses.
Registered nurses
Right.
in
There
nursing
needed
homes.
to be the presence of a registered nurse in long-term care facilities 24/7.
Right. And now this was supposed to take effect. That rule about having the 24/7 nurses in nursing homes was supposed to take effect on February 2nd. And this is one of those interesting cases where it is true that that he repealed a rule that required nurses to be present around the clock in long-term care facilities. It is true, but there is a larger context to it that needs to be understood.
Correct. And I think it's important to also understand, like in many other professions, medical professions and others, there's different levels of nursing certification, licensure, and qualifications. Right.
Right.
And so they're particularly talking about a registered nurse that meets certain criteria to be a
Right.
registered nurse.
Right.
There are licensed practical nurses, right? LPNs.
Right.
There are nurses, nursing aides. There are technicians, medical techs, etc., that also provide levels of care. There are EMS folks, etc. So I think it's important to know that they're specifying a particular level of qualifications.
Right. So actually, I think it's also important that we note that this rule had not been in effect yet.
No.
And in fact, there is no actual change in the status of staffing at nursing homes. And I think that's important to point out because if you're a person who is in a nursing home, or you have a loved one in a nursing home, or you are thinking that, at some point, you want to go into a nursing home as well, or that you need assisted living or something of that nature, it's important to note that he's not taking something away that has already existed. In fact, the rule about adding the 24/7 registered nurses was I believe passed in it was approved in 2024 under the Biden administration. And it's just that they're, Kennedy is now saying, we're not going to let that go into effect. And I know it may be irritating because many times we want to think, gee whiz, when we're in that kind of facility, we want the highest level of nursing care that we can possibly get. But it's not that he is taking something away that we've had. He's just saying we're going to keep the standard of care that we've had. And I think that's an important distinction, because otherwise we can get pretty wound up and say, oh, look at that. Look what he's done. Look what's been taken away from us. There's, in my opinion, a lot of reasons to be fairly irritated at Department of Health and Human Services and Mr. Kennedy. But this would be one that it would be a stretch to be really irritated at him, because actually nothing has really changed.
Nothing has really changed, and there's some suggestion this is a suspension of the implementation in order to review the necessity of a 24-hour, 7 days a week versus maybe something on the line of an 8-hour on-site or on call. I mean, there are so many ways that the medical professions provide services.
Yeah.
And I have good friends who are providing RN level care and higher to nursing homes, and some of them are on call and able to be there within minutes. But they're also being provided. The residents are also being provided for by other levels of skilled nursing too.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not really upset by this one, although I don't know all the nuances to the nursing care and the skilled medical care, and that's something we want to make sure we're clear about. We don't have that information,
right?
But it doesn't appear that this is doing away with anything. But it appears like it is either a suspension or a total disregard for that requirement.
You said that so nicely, Lamar. I mean, I would probably just say, when it comes to all things medical, we don't know diddly squat, but we got opinions, right?
Well, maybe we know just this much.
Or as my wife would say, just enough to be dangerous.
To be dangerous, yes. Yeah. But I think it's interesting because it's easy for us, because maybe how we feel politically or personally about this secretary of Health and Human Services to say, okay, another example of him stepping in where he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to say he knows what he's doing here in this case, other than this is probably one of those that is true, that maybe is not necessarily a terrible thing.
Yeah, it is not life altering. Now, the whole vaccination issue is life altering.
Correct.
And it's very, very risky for people, but this is not one that is necessarily life altering. So, well, anyway.
Yeah. So our point of presenting this is to say, fact checking can be a really good thing. Don't assume that it's always going to be about getting the dirt.
That's right. And
that you're looking for. And
that's why, when you hear things or you see things, it just take a beat and think about, where can I check this out? It's really interesting. There's a standard, and it still exists among really credible journalists, that they don't go to press on things they aren't certain about, that they haven't confirmed. I think it used to be that and I think it probably still is among those journalists, at least 2 sources before you print it. And if you don't have the two sources, you don't say it. So that's not a bad thing for us to do as well, is that when we hear something and we're like, and especially, here we go, back to gaslighting, right? So we hear or see something and we have this visceral reaction to it. And we're angry, we're upset, we're like appalled. That might suggest to us we need to take a step and make sure that it's true. Because so many of the things that we hear are designed to get that kind of response from us.
And why do you think that is, Tom?
Oh. Because then we're going to do crazy stuff. We're going to share it. We're going to tell others. We are going to, and what that does, of course, for the social media folks, is that just enriches them. Folks.
Yes.
Just remember, on social media, there is no product, because we are the product.
That's correct. And maybe we should revisit that again. We did a podcast on this maybe a year or 2 ago about, what's the product of social media? Where's the money?
Yeah.
And how's that money there? We've talked a lot about algorithms and how that shapes our social media experience. And honestly, algorithms are dollars.
That's right.
They produce dollars. And so some of the very wealthiest people in the world have tapped into that and can, follow the money, folks.
Well, you know what? Let's take a minute and talk a little bit about that in terms of this podcast.
Okay.
Because I think it's important for people to understand that this is fully self-funded. It comes out of our pocket. We have the option of trying to monetize it through Substack, through YouTube, through various platforms. We have that option. We have chosen not to do that. And the reason that we have is, it's not because we're independently wealthy. Oh my gosh, we are far from that. It's not that we are independently wealthy, but Lamar and I are people who have tried to live out our convictions in the work that we do. And, I saw him do that as a psychologist. I saw him do that in the ministry. I saw him do that at the college and in human resources. We try to live out our values in a way that is for the greater good. We don't always do it perfectly. I don't always do it perfectly.
No, I don't either.
But that's what we're trying to do with this podcast is we see a problem. And the problem seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of the divisiveness in our country and between people. We, in our small way, we're trying to address that. and we're trying to speak into that. Is anybody listening? Well,
it seems to be.
It seems to be. We can count. We send to a email list of about 1,800 people. Several hundred of those indicate that they have opened the email, and we presume they may or may not be listeners. We think that we have about 1,000 followers and or a little more than 1,000 followers and listeners worldwide. That's not a huge number. We understand that. We are not Taylor Swift. We are not. Don't know if you noticed that or not, but we are not Taylor Swift.
I like Taylor Swift a lot. Just so you know, I think she's awesome.
I know you do. We don't have millions of followers. We don't have that. So we're not reaping any benefits from this. But we just we became so tired of the gritching and the griping and the moaning and the attacking one another on the internet that we saw during the pandemic. And we felt, we don't know if we can do much about this, but we can at least try. And so we followed our values, and that's why we do this. If people want to send us money, it's not like we're going to send the check back, but we're not going to ask for any money, and we don't ask for any money.
No,
we ask you to do 3 things: like it, share it, and if you like, send us a comment.
Yeah.
Tell us that you're listening. Let us know that you appreciate the effort, at the very least. And while you're at it, take our act of kindness survey. We would love to know what good stuff you are doing in the world.
So I think it's also, we've kind of mentioned this on occasion when people have asked us questions after we've done interviews, and it's like, why do you guys do this, right? And I got to tell you, one of the most important things that I've got out of this whole thing is that I've opened up my own thinking, and I have met people who are doing incredible things, things that are meaningful, and it's really made me step back and rethink how I interact, the things that I say, and how can I be helpful, and trying not to be unhelpful. So sometimes Tom and I get offline, and we unload because we have to. I unloaded a little bit before this session with Tom, but it's a good experience, and we want to encourage people as we present this information, like on RFK. It's easy to go down the road of how much we dislike this administration's choice. On the other side, let's be careful how we handle information and make sure it's credible and it's good.
Lamar here. Getting to third space is always free. We don't ask you for money, but we do ask you to help us grow our audience. Hit the like button, share the podcast, and subscribe yourself. This will help us grow. Thanks. Now back to the podcast.
So, Tom, I think we need to move into our next example.
We do. One of people's favorite things to gripe about. I have griped about the United States Postal Service.
It's been called snail mail for a long time,
But this is a fun article.
Yeah, it is.
And it's an interesting article from Snopes, too, by the way. So do you want to describe this one?
The rumor that was out there was that the United, and I saw this, by the way, I saw it online, that the United States Postal Service updated, and I'm reading directly from the article, updated its domestic mail manual to reflect new rulings regarding postmarking procedures circulated online back in December of this past year. The idea was that if you drop a letter off or to get something postmarked at the post office, if you put it in a box, it's not going to get postmarked for, it could be up to a couple of days, because it has to go to a central facility or regional facility to get postmarked. And so if you are going to do a voting online or a voting through the mail, for example, and hoping that postmark is going to qualify that as a valid ballot. Millions of mail may not meet the postmark requirement because of this new delay. Am I correct in how you interpret this?
Yeah, that's correct. And that's what set a lot of people's hair on fire.
Right.
Was that, oh no, this is another manipulation of the elections. If I drop my ballot in the mail, and if my state says it has to be postmarked by a certain time, how do I know it's going to be postmarked in time to be counted in the election?
Yeah.
And I think
they're now going to not postmark it on time.
That's right. And so therefore my vote is not going to count. There are 16 states, I believe, according to the article, that have a date that you have to have the postmark on, right? And I think Maryland may be one of those. And so people were really, really concerned. Oh no, this rule is really going to mess with us, and it could mean that in the upcoming elections, my vote won't be counted. But the funny thing about this article is that nothing has changed.
No.
The manual was updated in an effort to be more transparent and just say, by the way, this is how your mail is processed, is that if you drop it into a mailbox near your house, which is what we typically do, if you drop your mail in a mailbox near your house, it's going to take a couple of days for it to be processed and get the stamp mark, right? The postmark. If you need a postmark immediately, then take it to the post office, to the desk, and ask them to stamp it that day.
Right.
And they will. I mean, but it's been the same rule in effect all this time as part of their, what is it? They have this whole thing.
The domestic mail manual.
Yeah, the domestic mail manual, and it's part of an effort that they've been making to really increase the responsibility and efforts of the Postal Service. So nothing's changed.
Now, I think it's important to realize that a post office is not a post office is not a post office.
Right.
Meaning that different post office and states and regions may function within those parameters, but they can function within those parameters differently.
Yeah.
For example, there are some, and maybe someone can check me on this, but I believe that there are some post offices that are probably more, I'm guessing, more rural or more community minded that may actually be able to postmark something much quicker, particularly around election. Because I know that our post office will put out information as to when you want to have that dropped in what particular box. And then there are collection boxes in some areas as well. We don't have them around here, but I know that there are collection areas as well.
Yeah.
So it kind of, you have to know what's going on in your region,
right?
To make sure you understand how postmarks work.
That's right. And just the other day, I had to take something to our local post office, and I had an option. I could have dropped it in the box in the lobby, but I had a question for them about the use of the box in the lobby. So I decided, and it was after Christmas, so there wasn't a 500-mile long line. So I was first in line. I got up there and I asked the postal clerk. I said, "So, as long as the box fits in that thing, I can put it there, right?" And she said, "Yeah, absolutely." And he took my box, and I noticed that right away he put a postmark on it. I mean, just standard procedure. He took it, postmarked it, and put it in the bin to go out. So if you're really worried about what happens with your ballot, if you're in one of those places that you vote by mail, which we do, we either mail it or we take it to a election drop box. And if you vote by mail, the thing that you need to do, as Lamar said, is be aware of how your local post office works.
Mm-hmm.
And And if you want to make doubly sure that it gets the postmark on it, take it to the post office. Otherwise, be an early bird.
Yeah, that's right.
And put it in the mail a week before, and then you don't have to worry about it. Now, we know that not everybody in the world listens to this, so there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to have this great, exposition on this.
It's a good reason to share this podcast, right?
Good reason to share this podcast is for your neighbor to understand. Get your act together on your voting.
Yeah.
And vote early.
And encourage others to do as well.
Yeah.
So this one was kind of a fun one for us. And another one where, I mean, it's true what the information that came out. It was not true, however, that this is now going to change when your ballot or other mail gets postmarked.
So, the bottom line is if you have concerns about when your ballot gets there, just get it in early, and that takes care of it. I mean, really, is your vote going to change over a 5-day period? I mean, if you send it in 5 days in advance, were you going to vote really differently on election day? I'm just wondering.
Well, yeah.
That would not occur to me.
First, we want you to vote, and second, we want you to vote early.
We want you to vote early. That's right.
All right.
As early as you can.
Why don't we move into our third and last Snopes article that takes us back to Minnesota?
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Do you have that one?
Okay, you better lead the way on this one because.
Well, you've actually told me a lot more about this than I know. But basically, there is a YouTube journalist, a very young YouTube journalist. His name is Nick Shirley.
Yeah,
and he posted a video where he claimed that daycare centers in Minnesota run by Somali Americans received a lot of money, millions of dollars in fraudulent payments. This is taxpayer dollars, without actually providing childcare services. So he was accompanied by, he did this video. He's accompanied by a gentleman from Minneapolis. And supposedly they researched this fraud, and then he posted it online, which has caused a lot of concern. And if it's true, it should be of great concern. But there are some things about this. As I read this article, it is yet to be totally determined if it is accurate or fraudulent. But there are some things about this and the process that concern me. There's a lot of what I would call confounding variables.
Mm-hmm.
Things that tend to discredit any kind of investigation or research. And one of those is you have this YouTuber with a videographer and a gentleman from the area going to daycare centers saying, "Is this true? And show me the kids."
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know from providing lots of services over the years prior to my last couple of careers, but that daycare centers will not show you the kids.
Yeah.
And will not interact with someone who wants to find out about the business that you're doing with people's children.
And of course, if any of our kids were in a daycare in which they just let strangers come in,
yeah,
they probably wouldn't be going back to that daycare.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I also know from my previous work that daycare, and these daycares that were mentioned were licensed daycares. Mm-hmm. And licensure requires a regular reporting and regular observations, at least annually. And so all of these daycare centers, and I'm not saying that the fraud hasn't happened. I'm just saying that eyes are on these daycares if they're licensed providers. And so not only do reports have to be done, but there are visits that are on site. And I believe that at least one of these, if not more, were under an annual review, which is normal. And so I'm not saying fraud hasn't happened. I'm saying proper investigation needs to happen, and there are systems in place, and this is why licensure is so important in so many things. In order to be licensed, there are eyes on what you are doing, making sure it's a safe place, making sure it has ways to feed people, ways to keep people safe from harm, adequate facilities. All these kinds of things are checked and rechecked, and making sure that their background checks are done on the people who are providing the care. So if it's a licensed daycare facility, as we understand that there are eyes on this. But if there is a investigation that needs to happen, it needs to go through the proper sources to do it.
And actually, let me expand on that just a little bit, because this does have some relationship, I believe, to what happened with Renee Nicole Good. Because, in fact, Shirley's video has been circulating out there. But earlier in December, U.S. Attorney Joseph Thompson in Minnesota said that there was an investigation, in a large-scale fraud investigation in Minnesota. And he said that but these were about 14 Minnesota-run Medicare and Medicaid programs in which money has been stolen through fraud since 2018. He said that 82, and this is important, 82 of the 92 defendants charged in the case were Somali Americans. Now, at the same time, prosecutors had charged dozens of defendants, according to the Snopes article, in the Feeding Our Future scheme, which the U.S. Attorney's Office, again in Minnesota, called the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the country, estimating that about $300 million in public funds was stolen by claiming to provide meals to children. And local news in Minnesota reported that most of the defendants in that case were also of Somali descent. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. One is that there is fraud that's been taking place, and the state is aware of that, and they are in the process of investigating it. But at this point, they cannot confirm any of Shirley's allegations, right? So, number one, there is fraud, but not necessarily of the nature that Shirley was suggesting. Secondly, the president's reaction to this was very strong, and he made some really negative comments about Somali Americans in Minnesota, which we're not going to repeat here. But they were very, very nasty. And it seems like the Shirley video, as well as the fraud investigation, is the part of the reason that the administration surged 2,000 ICE agents into Minnesota, many of them in Minneapolis. So they're coming into Minneapolis. Now that sets up the scenario where protesters come and show up because they were surged into an area that had a lot of immigrants, and Renee Nicole Good happened to be one of those protesters. The other piece of this that's noteworthy as well is that on Monday of this week, there was a mass resignation of attorneys from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Minnesota, as well as a mass resignation of attorneys in the Department of Justice over the whole incident of the killing of Renee Good and the subsequent cover-up or deflection or gaslighting that's been occurring since that happened. So this article does have far more relevance to the issue of Renee Good's death than what we might necessarily want to think.
I think your point is well taken. I don't think that was necessarily. I don't see anything that would suggest that was the intent of the setup or the investigations. But
what's the intent or the setup of it?
I don't necessarily see the intent of saying we need to investigate potential fraud as a way to move into what has taken place in Minneapolis right now. But I think it may be a good example of when stories get a life of their own and are not representing facts, either facts or truth or a combination thereof, and are taken to fuel other agenda, how bad it can get.
Yeah.
Why it's so important that we try to find that information that we're hearing that is disturbing to us, whatever way is disturbing, and say, is this true? Do I have a right to be disturbed about this? Maybe this isn't important to people. I mean, it's important to me because, I think, attacking a particular cultural, ethnic group is important, problematic. I think it's attacking the credibility of those who are taking care of some of our most precious resources, our children.
Mm-hmm.
And on we can go down the line of why it would be important to check, which was being done, whether there was actual fraud happening. I think that's important. It's the misuse of the information and changing the information that is what's most concerning, what you and I have been trying to hammer out in this particular podcast.
Yeah. I think that and I'm not sure that we would necessarily agree on this, Lamar. What I see in this, I don't think there is a direct causal relationship, but there is a through line that goes from, a legitimate fraud investigation that surely turned on its head with his video and his attempts to prove fraud, and then the surging of ICE into the community, and then the death of Renee Good. I do see a through line in that. I'm not saying that one caused the other,
Okay.
but they seem to line up in a kind of an interesting way to me.
Oh, I don't think we disagree, because I can look back and I can see the links. I think of them as links. These things are linked together. But I think that because of that, it's a good example of how maybe something that's over here being done is used as a way to justify, is linked to the next thing that really has nothing to do with it, but is the excuse or the reason why we think we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're sending in ICE because of this report that came out about these frauds that was actually being investigated already.
Right. You know what it's a little bit like?
Okay.
It's a little bit like the story out of Springfield, Ohio, that got started because a man was walking down the street carrying a goose.
Right.
And then that became that Haitian people in Springfield, Ohio are eating pets.
Yeah. Remember that story?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, just ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous. So, and I don't mean the rapper Ludacris. I mean just ludicrous, right? So,
yeah. Well, we won't get into how I feel about geese, but let's take us to a wrap up.
You're saying you wouldn't feel bad about eating a goose?
I have a photograph. Maybe we can post it on this site. I'll send it to you. I have a photograph of all the geese that are in a field south of my house. And if you step out in that field and look at my house, the south side of my roof is polka dots. Now you figure out why.
Oh, Lamar. Okay,
right,
so that
enough.
means you're going to be you're going to put a ladder up there. You're going to clean off all those polka dots when the weather gets good, right?
Right.
Oh, man, I hate to tell you, but you're getting too old to do that.
You mean the ladders? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, hey, this has been interesting. It's been fun.
Yeah.
And I do hope we'll continue to keep our eyes on Snopes and maybe find 2 or 3 more stories in the future to come back to, because, truth is pretty important, even when it's not convenient truth.
Right. And I think I would like to encourage our listeners, if you have run across some of these fact-checking stories that you find interesting, you want us to take a look at, send them to us. We'd love to read them.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. There are monkeys on the loose in St. Louis.
Okay, it's time for us to wrap this up, Tom. I can tell.
All right. Hey, Lamar, have a really great week.
Okay, take care, man.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Tom here. Thank you for listening to Getting to Third Space with Lamar and Tom. Remember to click on subscribe to get notices about new episodes, and be sure to like and share the podcast as well. Opinions and ideas expressed in this podcast are solely those of Lamar Roth and Tom Klaus, and we'd like to hear your opinions and ideas too. You can leave us a voice message on Spotify, or you can email us at the addresses found in the show notes. Also, in the show notes, you can find links to some of the things we talked about today, so you can check them out yourself. Until next time, keep moving forward toward third space.
This podcast was reviewed and approved by Jake and Ebby Dogs Incorporated.